Hi. So, I'm sure some of us are laughing and maybe even crying inside after watching the speech that Donald Trump gave yesterday. It is the most embarrassing speech I think I've ever seen go public. Um, Even for Trump. Even for Trump, just the blatant lies that have already been corrected and shut down, such as the fraud of Social Security and people over certain ages. You know, there's so many videos out there already debunking this and how Elon's an idiot and his team can't read, Social Security data and graphs and stuff correctly. There's videos on it. I want to talk about a different thing today. I'm a man of science, so when I hear stupid claims about science, I investigate them. And as you know, Donald Trump has made the most ridiculous, wildest statements. Let's just talk about a few things. And some of these things are people in his cabinet or whatever his people have said it. Maybe a couple of these things aren't directly him. But Kamala Harris and the weather machine controlling the weather, that was, Marjorie Taylor Greene or somebody. But, with Trump, we have the injecting the Lysol. He doesn't understand the difference between sex and gender. He thinks climate change is a hoax by the Chinese. He doesn't understand how beachfront property works. When you have this much of a circle and the outside is the beach and you have water coming up on it, you're losing your land. This perimeter is now smaller. You now have less beachfront property because the beachfront property you had before is now underwater. I mean, just simple, basic concepts that a 5-year-old can understand with a pen and paper, just drawing a circle. So he just says these lies and he just repeats them over and over and over because that's how misinformation spreads. If you say a lie over and over and over loud enough, people will start to believe it. So, and it's not just him. You have RFK on measles and seed oils and vaccines and so much horseshit. And if you actually study chemistry, you can read about the seed oils. Why do we want to ban olive oil and all this stuff that people use? Some people can't have butter and shit. And it's none of his business. If I want to eat seed oils, I'm going to eat seed oils. Fuck off. So, then we have the measles thing. Sorry, I'm kind of unscripted here. We have the measles thing. He publicly told people that measles is not a deadly virus and they've been lied to. It was something to that extent. Now we have mothers who are pissed. Their kids are dying of measles because they're refusing to give them vaccines. This is dangerous, folks. This stupid rhetoric and information that is just being spread so violently, it's dangerous. It's going to kill people. We're cutting, funding for mosquito nets and malaria drugs and things like that, that we're sending across seas and stuff. Do you think that's not going to come to us? Do you think mosquitoes just stay in that country and they never get over here? Airplanes, shipping containers, all sorts of shit. Viruses spread across the world through bugs and all kinds of stuff. So this is going to come back to haunt us doing this. We supply much of the world with so many drugs that help stop diseases before they even get here. So now what I would really like to talk about is the transgender mice. But before that, I'd like to throw in another little side note that Fox News is entirely full of shit all the time. And if you're looking at the thing they just posted on immigration where Donald Trump says, we've only had 8,300 apprehensions this year. And then they show the number of encounters next to that number. There's a difference between apprehensions and encounters. And if you can't think of that difference, then I'm sorry. But you need some help. And there is videos that explain this whole hoax too. David Pakman has a really good video he just released. I think it was today. He briefly explains this very well. I highly recommend his channel, by the way. So, and then they do this thing. All these people voted on tariffs. They voted on, yeah, tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. And Fox News, who supports Trump, waited until after the election to talk about how tariffs will screw us. How dishonest. Like they didn't know the whole time how they worked? Of course they knew. But they couldn't tell you that they were going to screw us before the election. Because then you wouldn't have voted for the guy, now would you? So, let's talk about transgender mice. Okay, so since we know that Donald Trump clearly doesn't understand anything about how the scientific community operates, or how research is done, or how funding works, let's break this stupid claim down of Biden spent $8 million on transgender mice. And everybody laughs, ha 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 ha. Okay, when you look at this claim on its face, when he just yells it, it sounds like somebody is spending $8 million to turn mice transgender and figure out how to do that. No, that is not at all what is going on. We do scientific testing on mice, usually before we do it on humans. Sometimes it's simultaneous. You know, it just depends. So it's easy to do stuff on mice, you know. Anyway, it's not $8 million in 1 year, which is probably how a lot of people perceive this, is that every year we're spending $8 million on turning mice a different gender. No. So that's the total amount that's been spent on these projects over many years, you know, multiple years. So let's just read an example. A mouse model to test the effects of gender-affirming hormone therapy on HIV vaccine-induced immune responses. Now, it says $450,000, but when you click on it, this is on the White House website, and I'll post all these links in the description. When you scroll all the way down and you read about it, it's for two projects at $250,000 and $200,000. So he's already kind of misrepresenting it by not telling you all of the facts. Now, you may be thinking, well, why do I care about gender-affirming care? Who cares? Okay, maybe you don't care about that. Maybe you don't give a shit. Whatever. Scientific research doesn't just stop on one topic. There's multiple things that have been discovered in research that we didn't know were going to apply to other areas of biology, chemistry, and industry. So we have multiple things in this study. We have how hormone therapy is affecting the immune responses, and it's relating to HIV vaccines. So it's not just transgender people that receive gender-affirming care. It's multiple people. Gender-affirming care is not just for trans people. I have to say that again. And let me explain. If you're a man with a chemical imbalance, let's say you're not producing enough testosterone, and you're suffering because of it, right? This happens to us. So you go to the doctor, and you get some testosterone to make your testosterone levels out, level out again. That's technically like gender-affirming care. So this research is going to help more people than just transgender people. And also, even if it wasn't, there's plenty of transgender people in the working class. Like, why don't you want them to have a better mental health? Why don't you want them to be happier? And they'll show up to work more often. They'll pay more taxes. Why do you not want to help these people be a part of the society? You're willing to give people drugs for, other chemical imbalances in their brain and stuff, for mental disorders and things, so that they can go to work, so that they can be a part of society. Why don't you want to do the research for these people? These people just want to live their lives and contribute to society like everybody else. So I am all for this. And when you actually look, and you're still thinking, Man, $8 million is a lot. Well, you don't understand how much funding actually goes into research in science every single year. Let me tell you, this funding that you're getting, this $8 million, which we've already shown, it's not $8 million a year. You can add up the math yourself on these websites and look at what was spent. It's $8 million total. But for now, we're just going to assume that this is $8 million a year being spent on this. Let's just assume that. Let's just assume the lie, right? That is only 0.12%. 0.12% of the NIAID's budget. Right? Their budget is $6.5 billion every year. So they're spending this very small fraction of this money. I mean, we're talking very small. A tenth of a percent almost. A little more. On this. You don't go through and question everything else that the $6.5 billion is for. No. What they do is they go in and they use these, probably some kind of technology, and they type in these words and go, we're going to cut out all things that say gender, sex, whatever. And they just search through all this crap and they just pull it out. It's an attack on trans people is what it is. You can see it for something else, but that's what it is. So it's such a small percent. When you start talking about, you're like $6.5 billion, that's a lot. That's a big budget. The budget of, you add up all the particle accelerators and everything else and all the other biological research, it's much more than this. Google it. Look it up. Please, I encourage you people. Look it up. It's crazy. So it's just so dishonest. I'll read you one more, and then I'm done for tonight, because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. I just wanted to get this video out quick today, while this was circulating, because in a week or just in a few days, he's going to say 100,000 more lies. Everybody's going to move on from this, and we're going to be fact-checking so many other things that we're not going to have time for this. So I can make a more in-depth video about this later if it's needed. I don't think it is. I think I'd rather make more in-depth videos about other things. I'll post the links of all this, and you can do your own research. But we'll read one more of these for fun. Gender-affirming testosterone therapy on breast cancer risk and treatment outcomes. So, yes, from the study, we're going to learn more about gender-affirming care, but we're also going to learn some things about breast cancer and how hormones interact. And it may open up to how, and this is just a guess, this is like the type of thing that science rolls into. Well, if this is how testosterone reacts with breast cancer when we give it to them, what about the normal testosterone floating around in a woman's body? Is that contributing to this anyway? So I'm just giving you an idea of where these research things jump off into other research points. And they build on each other. That's what the scientific community does. All this info builds on each other. It's not against each other. The more knowledge that we have on one single topic, it's huge. It's a huge advantage. And again, we're spending this little bit on it. And we're going to find out more about cancer, more about HIV vaccine, microbiomes, your health of your gut bacteria, microbiome-mediated effects of gender-affirming hormone therapy, the hormone mediators of sex and gender influences on asthma, things like that. Why do we not want to know about the connection between hormones and asthma? That could be very useful. So I just encourage you to start thinking critically and really start diving into this stuff a little more. When he says something, pause it. Stop. Google it. I beg you. That's my final message for tonight.